today around focusing on contextual factors, around participatory research, around the notion of belonging that keeps coming through in this space, and around diversity affirming approaches. So I feel like your order of operations was very, very good. So just to acknowledge that this work is a team, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but I hope not. So my colleague and work wife, Dr. Heather Brown, is engaged in this work as well. As I mentioned, Shaija with her master's project. Dr. Tim Barlott is an OT colleague who's also involved in Shaija's work. And then some colleagues, Shamala and Justin, who we've been working with in schools as well. So I won't go into depth because I feel like the last presentations have talked a little bit about this, but just to know that these approaches do see neurodiversity and neurodivergence as strengths, and that everyone, regardless of different ways of being, has equal worth, equal value. And so neurodivergence is seen as different and not less. It's important to note that the practices that we advocate for are situated in value and respect and not in charity and tolerance. And school is a critical place to promote this. That is where children spend most of their waking hours. So that's where this work is situated. I just put this in here because I did look up, as we were putting the presentation together, what Alberta education actually frames as inclusion. And I hadn't looked at that in a while, and was really pleased to see that their conceptualization of inclusion is situated in universal acceptance and belonging, with a number of principles underneath. And so I feel like there's a lot of momentum in this province to get to a place that seems to align with what the autistic community is telling us as well. And with that, I wanted to highlight just one study that actually really informed the work that Shaija's doing. So the reason that this study stands out, this is Goodall from 2020. He's got a number of studies. And this is one of the first studies we found that really got the autistic students' perspective of what they felt inclusion meant. So these were 12 autistic youth, so a little bit older than our sample. These kids were 11 to 17, and they were in mainstream education. And that they defined inclusion as belonging, as being valued for who they are by their teachers, and still being offered or afforded the accommodations and strategies that they needed to be successful at school. And so, as the paper says, inclusion is a feeling, not a place. And so what Shaija did for her thesis work is really drew on this work quite a bit. And the question was framed around, what is the best school environment for me? And we actually sort of started the study with a little bit of a different lens, and then Goodall's work came out and we kind of evolved the study along with some of the methodology used in this study. So the research question, it's exploratory work, so it was really broad. And it was, what do autistic children perceive as their optimal school environment? This study was a lot of fun. And so we did a collective case study, and where we really prioritized children's perspectives. And so that type of approach does include a relatively small sample. That's important when you're doing a master's, or you'll take forever and ever and ever. But we had multiple data collection sessions with each of our participants. So we actually have really some relationships building with them and a lot of depth in our data. So we gave them lots of options. You can see the traditional interview, but you can also see lots of other creative options. And then the children got to choose if and how many of these different data collection options that they wanted to do. So our 4 participants were all grades 4 to 6, 3 identified as male, 1 is female. They did all have some spoken language to varying extents, and so they did all want to participate in some type of interview along with some other creative data collection methods. You can see that they did also all have a co-diagnosis of ADHD. Our questions with them were centered around their experiences related to their diagnosis of autism, but of course it all gets woven in together. So photo elicitation and photo voice involve taking pictures or sharing thoughts on pictures that are provided to the student. And the beans and pots gave some question prompts, and then the kids could sort into 3 different things about yes, no, or not sure. And so what it really did was give an opportunity to have sort of like a structured interview, except it really became story sharing on their part. And so it was a really effective, I would say a more effective way to interview children than simply interviewing children, but it was a form of verbal dialogue. I should add that we really wanted to prioritize the children's perspective. And so initially we only were going to include the child participants. Their mothers for each of them was present in various proximities for the data collection. And we could just tell that the moms just really wanted to get in there and share something or give some context. So what we did is when we were done data collection with the kids, we revised our ethics and we did interview their parents. And so we got to have that additional information, but we still prioritized the child's data. So we did a thematic analysis and we had an overarching theme and then 2 sub-themes or 2 themes with some sub-themes. I'm going to go through these individually, so I'll just skip ahead. So our overarching theme was a sense of belonging is necessary for a positive school experience. And we found this quite surprising because we thought when we started the study, we were going to hear about the physical environment and sensory overload and maybe some academic or some task adaptations. We thought these kids would be pretty concrete. We never used the word belonging, connection in any of our questions. And yet the data came across and just had a broader conceptualization about what the optimal school environment was for these children. And it really was one in which they felt that they were accepted for who they are, and that they experienced connection with others, that they felt seen, heard, and valued without judgment. So our themes within that really related to the psychological and the physical environment. So our first theme was that autistic students need to feel psychologically safe at school. And then under this was being seen and heard by their teachers. Our participants talked about their teachers, less so about other staff, less so about peers. That connection with teachers really came across. And we saw that in Goodall's findings as well, that the teachers were highlighted. They did talk quite a bit about bullying, and they actually felt like some of the bullying was because their teachers and peers didn't understand their autistic way of being as the particular sort of motivation for much of that bullying. You can see down here one of the write, draw, tell activities we did. I won't read it out loud, but to give you an idea of what some of the data collection was like. And we have an audio clip. I'm not going to play it because this is being recorded, but I'm just going to read to you what Piper said. So she said, "My grade 5 teacher was the best teacher ever. She let me hug a stuffy in class and listen to music and have a fidget. The other teachers don't know about autism. They don't understand me. I wish they knew and would be kinder to me, and I wish that my peers knew more, because then they would be kinder to me."
It was my
Sorry. Her voice, it's so cute, but I just feel being recorded. I'm not going to play that. The second theme, oh shoot, it's probably going to play again. No, I did want to read Dawn's quote if you can't read it up there, because I thought it was quite powerful as well. please don't be yelling just because it looks like we're not listening. I want to make sure that none of the teachers would be screaming at people that we're not paying attention. Well, at least look like they're not paying attention, because we are. And that just went back to a lot of the kids' comments that they just wanted those teachers and adults to understand. And then the second theme, we're not surprised of, we are occupational therapists. But there was a significant amount of data about the sensory environment and how much those sensory experiences influence their ability to participate at school. So not surprisingly, sub-theme 1 was really around being overwhelmed. Sights, sounds, crowds, hallways. This is no surprise to many people in this room. What we found a little bit more interesting was the number or the amount of data we had around that regulating calm breaks in separate spaces that are under the autonomy and the control of those students were really critical to their ability to participate and to feel like they belonged at school. And this was important because often those breaks were separate from their peers. At recess, at lunch, at all those times when historically I, as a clinician, would have thought that's the best time to get the kids socializing, make friends, and so on. And our kids told us, you know what, like, I just need this to get through the school day. And so that was really important. That quote's hard to read. So Matt just said, I go into the office. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading this with my old eyes, to just kind of have some quiet and see what kind of happens in the office, some cool people. But then his mom did go on to say that he does like to need to skip recess and go inside most of the time. To the adults, he likes to be a helper. And then she went on to say they should be able to choose if they want to go for recess or not. So again, that autonomy is important to respect. So we found it encouraging that our data really did align with what Alberta education is striving towards. They're not always there yet, but they're, you know, the goal is in sight around a sense of belonging, and then around feeling psychologically and physically safe. We're going to do our practical takeaways combined with the other study. But again, we just thought it was interesting. If you Google supporting autistic students, because I've done this, you get a lot of guidelines on transitions and visuals and, you know, schedules and all of these kind of things. The kids didn't talk about that one iota. And so we thought, well, maybe it's already in place, right? Maybe it's already there, which is good. Clearly not enough though. So we need to move beyond that.